Hi guys, this is Chris with CodeChris.com. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing, all that fun stuff. Share the video if you like it. Anyways, the point is, why thought you'd say that? Okay, so anyways, what I wanted to talk about today was this, when you're learning code, and this applies to everybody, man. Whether you've been doing this for 20 years, you've been doing it for 5 years, you've been doing it for 1 year, you've been doing it for 6 months, 6 weeks even. When you're learning a new skill set, especially if you're teaching yourself, and the reality is no matter how you learned initially, you are teaching yourself all the time. There's new frameworks, new libraries, you name it, it exists, and you have to read documentation and figure out this brand new thing that, you know, nobody's told you, right? And whether it's documentation or YouTube videos, whatever, that's how you're finding out. Your Stack Overflow, whatever, that's what you're finding out. Well, the point is, I wanted to point out that it can seem very much at times that you're not making any progress, or that your progress is like really, really slow, or that you've frozen, that you just froze. People talk about looking back at where you've come from, how far you've come, etc., and to use that sort of as a gauge. And so I was at work, and as I was at work, I was doing code. I was just doing my front end stuff, and then and I'm learning a whole different workflow over there, right? Very different from everything that I know, and all this stuff. And it struck me at a certain point that like Neo in the Matrix, I can read all of this. Like this all makes sense. Like I understand the parts that are kind of confusing to me, I can kind of figure out. Like, it was a weird, self-reflective moment where I looked at the code and I saw it like a book, like words that you see anywhere. And it was a reflective moment for me because I realized that I had taught myself how to do this. Like, I have a skill set that I didn't have before. Not only that, but like I've seen code before, right? I've seen markup, I've seen JS code before, but it was all gibberish to me. Like it meant nothing. It was chaotic. I thought you had to be like, 4-year college degree, undergraduate to even slightly understand. And even then, only a select few will even be chosen for, actually being a developer. And it was crazy to me because I looked back on it and I was like, oh my goodness, I've taught myself this. This is very cool. This is cool. When you think about that kind of stuff, it's crazy to actually look back, and you may feel like like me, I'm not the best developer. I'm not the best programmer. I'm not the best whatever. And then you look back though, and you see maybe you're not the best. Maybe you aren't working for Facebook or Amazon or whatever, but you look at what you're doing, and you quickly have to realize that you are much better than where you started from. And if you had told yourself in the past how far you would come and what you would currently be working on, it would seem so far away. It would seem that is very difficult to do, which, in all fairness, it is. But it's crazy. I don't know. What I'm saying is, if you've been doing code for a little bit, or you're in the process of learning, and you feel like, oh God, I suck at this, I'm no good at this, or whatever, stop for a second, look at what you do know and what you do understand, and realize that you already know a lot. You've already been figuring out a lot of stuff. Looking back, there was a time when you didn't understand what you already understand now, right? You didn't know what you know now. And really the reality is that the parts you don't know yet that you're having trouble with, in a few weeks or even months, you will understand that. You will know that. In fact, that will be like the back of your hand. I never like that term. I know it like the back of my hand. Whoever looks at the back of their hand. Anyways, but you're going to understand it that much better and that much more. And really, you're looking for that next challenge, right? You don't want to become stagnant and bored. Like, you find that next challenge, that next level up. And really, that's the reality about this whole path and journey. Um, you improve yourself, you prove your skill set, and you never actually finish. You're never gonna get there. You're never going to get to wherever your destination is, because your destination is going to be a moving target. It's always going to be going a little bit past you wherever you currently are. And I always think of it like a mountain. Like every time you've gotten to the top of the mountain, it turns out it's just, another step that like plateaued, and then it goes up again and again and again and again and again and again. So it's not so much that you'll ever really be done learning. And when you look back down the mountain of how far you've come, that's when you can really get a sense of awe and amazement. And it's not to be like bragging, right, or anything like that. It's important for you to understand where you've come from, right? One, I think it's important to be humble. You should, be humble about where you're at, be humble about how far you've come, what you know, because the reality is there's still much more of a mountain, and there's still plenty of people who will get to your same point. They may even surpass you faster. Um, so, so all of that I think is important, but also it's important for you to keep motivated, to realize that where you're at is a huge accomplishment. Okay, if you've only been doing this for, let's say, 2 weeks, right? If you've only been like interested in this thing for 2 weeks, you're at a good tipping point. Okay, you've already reached several markers. The first marker is actually being serious about it. Okay, I think during the whole process there's multiple like definitive moments, right? And it's kind of like the moments in like life, right? There's very definitive moments in your life that kind of change things, right? And so with this field, there's a moment where you decide that you want to do development, that you want to learn code, that you're not going to be intimidated by it, and that you're actually going to stick to build a schedule, or whatever it is you've committed, right? You've bought a course. That's a step. That's an investment, right? You're sitting down, you're watching the course. Okay, like that's there. You press rewind. The first time you press rewind is your first little hill. And the reason I say that is because when you press rewind, it's not because you have to. You press the rewind button when you want to understand something. There's a lot of Udemy courses, and some of them are like 40 hours or whatever. And what could happen very easily is you watch these courses. You just skim through them and you just code along or whatever the case is. And what ends up happening is you don't understand the material. So you try to complete the 40-hour course in 40 hours. But when you press the rewind button, it's because you're like, wait, what am I doing? What? Rewind, rewind, rewind. Say it again. And you've made a decision that I'm not going to get through this course. I want to understand this course. I want to understand what on earth he's doing there. And it's silly, but it's little stuff like that when you look back on it, right? You've complete the Udemy course, and you look back on it, and you're like, wow, I understand this stuff. I can build all that stuff in the course much faster now. If I had to build it from scratch, I can do that now. I understand that. Maybe I don't understand it 100%, but before I started this course, and now that I'm completed, I definitely do, right? Whether it's college or code school, a boot camp, whatever the case is, there's something that you will do, right? I mean, if you take the step to go into a boot camp, you've done a lot of things, right? You basically say like, hey, I'm going to commit to this, and I'm going to a boot camp. I am putting down money and I am committing to it, right? I think if you're self-taught, you can save yourself a lot of money, and you still have that same opportunity, and even more so. And I think it'll sort of reinforce it because nobody's holding your hand. Nobody's forcing you to sit down, to spend extra time, to set aside time. Nobody's forcing you to do any of that. And you have these moments of like, I don't understand it, man. This is confusing. This is difficult. Am I even doing it? And there's nobody to push you to be like, yeah, you can go on to the next course. Or no, you need to press the rewind button. You don't understand this. You need to look up something else. You need to look up something to read or whatever because you aren't grasping it. You aren't understanding it. And that's all on you. The nicer thing is when stuff is all on you and you look back at where you've come from, you feel very, very accomplished. You should feel very proud. Whether it's 2 weeks, 2 years, 20 years, the point is that wherever you're at, you have this rocky start. You get a little bit more of a grasp onto, an actual commitment. You get on the next commitment, and before you know it, you start climbing. You get to your first plateau, then you get to your first hill, then you get your first milestone, then you get to your first mountain, your first wall, all this stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's important to sort of have a moment to reflect back on how far you've come, and be proud of that. Don't be always comparing yourself to the people who've been doing this for a bazillion years. Do not compare yourself to any of your peers that are working on more complex languages. The point is that it doesn't matter what your peers are doing. It doesn't matter what other people in the field are doing. It doesn't matter any of that stuff. Because at the end of the day, your only competition is yourself and your former self. And that's really what you need to be focused on. Because as long as you're beating your former self, as long as you're progressing past your former self, I mean, what more do you need to be competing with, right? Because the new you, the more skill proven you, has a better chance of getting that job, of building that career, of providing, of doing, building whatever it is they want to do better than the former self, right? And as you progress, remember to take time to breathe, enjoy where you're at, be happy with the progress you've made, and when you're ready, you can start climbing again. But just keep walking forward, keep moving, and you'll be doing good. Okay? Anyways, this is Chris with CodeChris.com. Thank you for liking, watching, and subscribing. Any comments or thoughts, please let me know down below. If you have any particular questions, I can also go ahead and check those out too. Alright? Thanks, guys, and have a nice day.